The transport ship shook as it entered the docking bay of Coalition Station Vega 12. Lieutenant stood near the exit door with his squad of 12 soldiers. They wore their standard combat uniforms with the Republic of Korea flag on their shoulders. Each soldier carried an M4 carbine rifle, a sidearm pistol, and several magazines of ammunition on their vests. Looked at his people. They were young but well-trained. Sergeant Park stood to his right. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. She had served with for 3 years. Behind her stood Corporal Shin, Private O, and 8 other soldiers. They were the first human military unit to join the Galactic Alliance peacekeeping force. The door opened with a hiss of air. Bright white light flooded into the transport, stepped out first. The docking bay was enormous. It was larger than any building had ever seen on Earth. The ceiling was so high that he could barely see it. Dozens of alien ships were parked in neat rows. Creatures of all shapes and sizes moved around the bay. Some walked on 2 legs, some walked on 4, some floated in the air. Had studied the files about alien species, but seeing them in person was different. A group of aliens approached them. The one in front was very tall, maybe 8 feet. He had a body like an insect with hard black armor covering his skin. His head had 2 large eyes and a pair of mandibles that clicked together when he moved. This was according to the files, they were one of the most powerful military species in the galaxy. "I am Commander," they said. His voice was deep and rough. "You are the human soldiers." "Yes, sir," replied. He saluted in the human way. "Lieutenant, Republic of Korea Space Marines. We are honored to serve with the Coalition." Did not return the salute. His large eyes moved over the human soldiers one by one. Then his gaze stopped on the rifles they carried. "What are those?" he asked. "Our weapons, sir, M4 carbine rifles." Stepped closer. He bent down to look at its rifle. She held it steady and did not move. Reached out with one of his clawed hands and touched the barrel. "This is metal," he said. "Yes, sir." "And this fires projectiles, small pieces of metal." "Yes, sir, 5.56 millimeter rounds." Made a strange sound. His mandibles clicked together rapidly, realized he was laughing. "Projectile weapons," said. He turned to the other aliens behind him. There were warriors with gray skin and massive bodies. There were officers with thin arms and large heads. They all began to make sounds. They were all laughing. "Your species still uses kinetic weapons?" asked. "Controlled explosions to push metal through the air." Kept his face calm. "Yes, sir, they are effective." "Effective?" clicked his mandibles again. "Come, let me show you what effective looks like." He led the humans across the docking bay to a large room. Inside the room, there were many weapons on display tables. Picked up a long rifle that glowed with green light. "This is a plasma rifle," he said. "It fires superheated plasma at the speed of light. One shot can burn through the hull of a starship. It can melt any armor. It can turn a living creature into ash in less than 1 second." He put down the plasma rifle and picked up another weapon. This one looked like a tube with many holes. "This is a sonic disruptor. It fires concentrated sound waves. These waves can shake apart solid objects. They can turn the organs inside a body into liquid. Very painful, very effective." He put down the sonic disruptor and pointed to a large cannon on wheels. "That is a gravity pulse cannon. It creates a small area of extreme gravity. Everything in that area is crushed. Buildings, vehicles, bodies, nothing survives." Turned back to, his eyes showed no respect. "And you brought guns that throw metal," he said. "How quaint, how primitive." The other aliens laughed again. A warrior named stepped forward. He was huge, with muscles like stone and a face full of scars. "Maybe we should put the humans in a museum," said. "They can stand next to the other ancient things." More laughter, felt his jaw tighten. He wanted to say something, but he stayed quiet, stood beside him. Her hand rested on her rifle. Her eyes were cold. Private leaned close to Private O. "Let them laugh," he whispered. "We will see who laughs later." Assign them quarters in the lower section of the station. The rooms were small and simple. The aliens clearly did not think the humans deserved better. That night, gathered his squad in one of the rooms. "I know what happened today was difficult," he said. "They laughed at us. They think we are weak. They think our weapons are toys." "They are wrong," said. "Yes, they are wrong, but we cannot prove it with words. We can only prove it with actions." Looked at each of his soldiers. "For now we train, we prepare, we stay ready. When the time comes, we will show them what humans can do." Raised her hand. "Sir, they have plasma and gravity weapons. They can destroy starships. Our rifles cannot do that." Nodded. "You are right. Our rifles cannot destroy starships, but we are not here to destroy starships. We are here to fight enemies, to protect people, to complete missions." He picked up his M4 and held it in front of him. "This rifle has been used by human soldiers for many decades. It is simple. It is reliable. It works in rain, in sand, in snow, in darkness. It does not need power cells. It does not need charging. It just needs a soldier who knows how to use it." He put the rifle down. "The aliens measure power by the flash and the noise. They want weapons that glow and shake the ground. But we measure power differently. We measure it by results. We measure it by enemies who fall and missions that succeed." Stood up. "The lieutenant is right. I have seen many soldiers with expensive equipment who could not fight, and I have seen soldiers with simple rifles who won impossible battles. The weapon is not what matters. The soldier is what matters." Looked at his squad. They were young, but their eyes were strong. "Tomorrow the training begins," he said. "We will run. We will shoot. We will practice until every movement is perfect. When the coalition needs soldiers who can fight, they will call us, and when they call us, we will be ready." The soldiers nodded. They understood. 3 weeks passed on Coalition Station Vega 12. Every day was the same for the human soldiers. They woke up early. They trained for hours. They ate their meals. They trained more. Then they slept and did it again. The aliens watched them sometimes. They stood in doorways and laughed. They pointed at the humans running through the corridors. They made jokes about the small rifles and the strange exercises. The humans ignored them and continued training. But the worst times were in the mess hall. The mess hall was a large room where all the soldiers ate together. There were hundreds of tables and thousands of seats. Aliens from many different species sat in groups, eating strange foods and talking in loud voices. The humans had their own small table in the corner. One day, Corporal Shin walked through the mess hall with her food tray. She had finished training and was very hungry. She moved carefully between the tables, trying not to bump into anyone. A large shadow fell over her. She looked up and saw the warrior. He was standing in her path. His gray face showed no emotion, but his eyes were cruel. "Look at this," said loudly. Other aliens turned to watch. "The little human wants to eat." Said nothing. She tried to step around him. Moved to block her again. "What is on your tray? Is that what humans eat? It looks like garbage." "Please let me pass," said quietly. "Please," laughed. The sound was deep and ugly. "The human says please, how polite, how weak." He reached out and knocked the tray from her hands. The food fell to the floor. The tray made a loud noise as it hit the ground. Everyone in the mess hall was watching now. Stood very still. Her hands were at her sides. Her face was calm, but her eyes were burning. "Go back to your primitive world, soft skin," said. "You do not belong here. You and your metal tubes are useless. When real fighting begins, you will die like insects." Bent down slowly. She picked up her tray and the scattered food. She did not look at, she did not say anything. She just walked back to the human table and sat down. Was sitting there, she had seen everything. "Are you okay?" asked. "Yes, Sergeant," said. Her voice was steady. "He is not worth my anger." Nodded. "Good. Remember what the lieutenant said. We prove ourselves with actions, not words. Our time will come." Across the mess hall was still laughing with his friends. They thought they had won. They did not understand that had shown more strength by walking away than they had ever shown in their lives. Meanwhile, in the command center, the coalition leadership was having a meeting. Commander stood at the front of the room. Ambassador Brill, a diplomat with pale blue skin, sat at the main table. Several other high-ranking officers were present. "We must discuss the human soldiers," Brill said. Her voice was thin and high. "They have been here for 3 weeks. What is their status?" "They train every day," said. "They run and exercise and practice with their weapons." "Their projectile weapons," another officer said. He was alike. "I watched them at the shooting range. Their rifles make a loud noise and shoot small pieces of metal. It is like watching children play." "Should we deploy them in combat?" Brill asked. Made his clicking laugh. "Deploy them? Where? Against what enemy? Their weapons cannot even scratch armor. A single plasma shot would kill them all." "Perhaps they could be support troops," another officer suggested. "They could carry supplies or guard empty buildings." "Even that might be too dangerous for them," said. "I think sending humans into real combat would be like sending children to war with sticks and stones. They would die, and then their government would be angry with us." Brill nodded slowly. "I understand. We will keep them in reserve for now. They can continue their training. Perhaps someday they will develop better weapons." The meeting ended. No one had spoken in favor of the humans. No one believed they could fight. That same night, received a message on his communication device. It was from "Your squad will remain in reserve status," the message said. "You will not be deployed to combat missions. Continue your training exercises." Read the message twice, then he showed it to. "They think we cannot fight," said. "Yes." "They are wrong." "Yes, but we cannot force them to use us. We can only be ready when they need us." For 2 more weeks, the humans continued their routine. Every morning led them through physical training. They ran through the station corridors. They did push-ups and sit-ups and squats. They practiced hand-to-hand combat. Every afternoon, they went to the shooting range. They fired hundreds of rounds. They practiced shooting while standing, kneeling, and lying down. They practiced shooting while moving. They practiced in darkness with only the lights on their rifles. Private O became the best shot in the squad. He could hit a target from 300 meters without missing. Private was the fastest at reloading. He could change a magazine in less than 2 seconds. Corporal was the best at close combat. She could clear a room faster than anyone. At night, taught them about alien species. He showed them pictures and videos of different enemies. He explained their weaknesses and their strengths. He made them memorize the information until they could recall it instantly. "Knowledge is also a weapon," he told them. "If you understand your enemy, you can defeat your enemy." One night, everything changed. Was asleep in his quarters when an alarm began to sound. Red lights flashed in the corridor. A voice spoke through the station speakers. "Emergency alert! Emergency alert! All combat units report to the command center. This is not a drill." Was dressed in 30 seconds. He ran to the command center with beside him. The rest of the squad followed. When they arrived, the room was chaos. Officers were running everywhere. Screens showed maps and video feeds. Commander stood at the center, giving orders in his harsh voice. On the main screen saw a planet. It was gray and rocky, covered with mining equipment. Text on the screen said, "Mining Colony 7. "What happened?" asked a nearby officer. The officer looked at him with surprise, as if he had forgotten humans existed. "The Horde," the officer said. "They have attacked 7. They killed the security forces and took hostages. Over 200 civilians are trapped in the mining complex." Knew about They were reptilian raiders who attacked colonies for resources and slaves. They were brutal and ruthless. They feared nothing. "We are assembling a strike team," announced to the room. Shock troops, heavy infantry, and support units. We leave in 1 hour. Stepped forward. Sir, my squad requests permission to join the mission. Turned to look at him. His insect eyes showed no emotion. Your squad, with your projectile weapons. Yes, sir. Was silent for a moment, then his mandibles clicked. Very well, you can come, but you will guard the rear. You will stay out of the way of real soldiers. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Saluted and walked back to his squad. They were waiting with their rifles ready. We are going, he told them. This is our chance. Stay sharp, stay focused, and when the time comes, show them what we can do. The soldiers nodded. Their eyes were bright with purpose. The transport ships flew through space toward Mining Colony 7. Inside the largest ship, over 100 soldiers prepared for battle. Shock troops checked their plasma rifles. Warriors tested their sonic disruptors. Technicians calibrated their gravity cannons. In the back corner of the ship, the 12 humans sat quietly. They cleaned their M4 rifles and loaded their magazines. They spoke to each other in low voices. Remember, said, we follow the commander's orders, we stay in the rear, we wait for our moment. What if our moment never comes? Asked. It will come. Battles never go exactly as planned. When they need us, we will be ready. Checked her rifle one more time. They are dangerous. They fight with energy blades and chemical weapons. They wear heavy armor. They do not fear death. Neither do we, said. The transport shook as it entered the atmosphere of 7. Through the small windows, the soldiers could see the planet's surface. It was gray and brown, covered with rocks and dust. Large mining machines stood silent in the distance. Smoke rose from several buildings. Commander walked to the center of the ship. He activated a holographic display that showed a three-dimensional map of the mining complex. Listen carefully, said. They have taken control of the main facility. They have approximately 100 warriors inside. The hostages are being held in the central processing building here. He pointed to a large structure in the middle of the map. Our mission is to eliminate thee and rescue the hostages. He pointed to several areas on the map. Shock troops will enter from the north. You will push through the main corridor and draw enemy attention. Infantry will enter from the east and west. You will use sonic weapons to destroy fortified positions. Support will remain outside and use gravity cannons on any enemy reinforcements. Then looked at the humans. His mandibles clicked once. The humans will stay at the south entrance. Guard the rear. Make sure no enemies escape. Try not to get killed. Some of the alien soldiers laughed, did not react. He simply nodded. Understood, sir. The transport landed in a cloud of dust. The rear door opened and the soldiers ran out. The air was cold and thin. The sky was brown with pollution from the mining operations. Led his squad to the south side of the complex. The buildings were made of metal and concrete. They looked old and worn. Mining equipment lay scattered everywhere. Take positions here, ordered. You have the highest point. Find a place where you can see the entire south area. Cover the main entrance. Everyone else spread out and watch for movement. The soldiers moved quickly and quietly. They found cover behind walls and machines. They checked their weapons and waited. Through their communication devices, they could hear the other teams preparing. Team in position. East team ready. West team ready. Support standing by. Then gave the order, all teams begin assault. The sound of battle filled the air. From the north, bright green light flashed as they fired their plasma rifles. The shots made a high-pitched screaming sound as they burned through the air. From the east and west, deep rumbling sounds came from the sonic disruptors. The ground shook with each blast. Listen to the radio communications. Team advancing, light resistance. East engaging enemy position. Good progress, keep pushing. For several minutes, everything seemed to be going well. The alien soldiers pushed into the complex with their powerful weapons. They appeared to be falling back. Then something changed. "Commander, we have a problem." It was the team leader. His voice was stressed. "Our plasma shots are not effective. The enemy has reflective plating on the walls. The plasma is scattering." "Use concentrated fire," ordered. "We tried. The plating absorbs too much energy. We cannot burn through." Another voice came through the radio. It was the East team. "Commander, our sonic weapons are not working. They are wearing dampening armor. The sound waves are not reaching them." "Push forward anyway," commanded. "We cannot. They have defensive positions with heavy cover. We are taking casualties." The sounds of battle changed. The confident firing of the coalition weapons became slower and more desperate. Screams of pain came through the radio. Something was very wrong. "Support, fire gravity cannons at enemy positions," ordered. "We cannot, Commander. The positions are too deep inside the complex. Our cannons would bring down the entire structure. The hostages would be killed." "Listen to everything." He looked at her. Face was hard and focused. "They planned for this," said quietly. "They knew what weapons the coalition would bring. They prepared countermeasures." "Yes," agreed. "Reflective plating for plasma, dampening armor for sonic weapons, underground positions for gravity cannons. They studied their enemies." "But they did not study us." Nodded slowly. "No, they did not." More reports came through the radio. The advance had stopped completely. The teams were pinned down. 3 soldiers were dead. 7 were wounded. They were now counterattacking, pushing the coalition forces back toward the entrances. "All teams fall back to extraction points," ordered. His voice was angry and frustrated. "We need to regroup and develop a new strategy." Press the button on his radio. "Commander, this is Lieutenant. Request permission to attempt entry from the south." There was silence for a moment, then responded. "Your request is, your weapons will be even more useless than ours. Fall back with the other teams." "Sir, with respect, our weapons are different. They may be effective where yours are not." "I said fall back, human. That is an order." Release the radio button. He stood still for a long moment. His soldiers were watching him. They were waiting for his decision. "Sir," said quietly, "if we fall back, those hostages will die. They will kill them or take them as slaves. Over 200 innocent people." "I know. Our rifles can work. They prepared for energy weapons. They did not prepare for bullets." "I know." Looked at his squad. 12 soldiers, 12 rifles, against 100 warriors in a fortified position. "If we go in without permission," said, "we will face punishment. Maybe we will be sent back to Earth in disgrace." "Maybe," said, "or maybe we will save those hostages and change everything." He looked at each soldier one by one. They looked back at him with steady eyes. No one showed fear. No one wanted to retreat. "I will not order anyone to follow me," said. "If you want to fall back, I understand. No one will think less of you." No one moved. "Then we go," said. He raised his rifle and moved toward the south entrance. "Stay quiet, stay together, and remember your training." The 12 human soldiers disappeared into the dark tunnels of the mining complex. Behind them, the sounds of failed alien weapons echoed through the air. Ahead of them, 100 enemies waited. But they did not know what was coming. They had prepared for plasma and sonic waves. Of the tunnels were dark. The only light came from small emergency lamps on the walls. The air smelled like metal and chemicals. Water dripped somewhere in the distance. Moved forward slowly. His rifle was pressed against his shoulder. His eyes scanned every shadow. Behind him, his squad followed in a single line. They made almost no sound. Their boots stepped softly on the metal floor. Their breathing was controlled and quiet. Private O was at the front. He was the best at moving without being seen. He used hand signals to communicate. A raised fist meant stop. A pointing finger meant enemy ahead. A wave meant clear to advance. They had practiced these signals thousands of times. Now they used them for real. Raised his fist. Everyone stopped. He held up 3 fingers and pointed to the left. 3 enemies, left side. Moved up beside him. He looked around the corner carefully. 3 warriors stood in the tunnel about 50 meters away. They were large reptilian creatures with green scales and yellow eyes. They wore heavy black armor and carried energy blades that glowed with blue light. They were talking to each other in their harsh language. They were not paying attention. Looked back at his squad. He pointed at and made a cutting motion across his throat. She understood. She moved to the other side of the tunnel and raised her rifle, moved up beside, covered the rear. Held up 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. 3 rifles fired at the same time. The sound was sharp and sudden. It echoed through the tunnel like thunder. The 3 dropped instantly. 2 were hit in the head. 1 was hit in the chest. They did not make a sound. They did not have time to react. They simply fell and did not move again. The squad waited. 10 seconds, 20 seconds. No alarm, no response. "Move," whispered. They stepped over the bodies and continued forward. The reflective plating on the walls gleamed in the dim light. Touched it as he passed. It was designed to scatter plasma energy and protect against heat. It did nothing against solid metal moving at high speed. The dampening armor on the bodies was the same. It was made to absorb sound waves and vibrations. But a bullet did not care about sound absorption. It punched through the armor like paper. Raised his fist again. More enemies ahead. This time there were 5 in a room to the right. They were looking at screens and monitoring equipment. They were watching the battle at the north entrance. On their screens could see the soldiers falling back. They were laughing. Gave the signal. The squad stacked up beside the door and would enter first and would follow. The others would cover the hallway. Took a deep breath, then he moved. He came through the door fast and low. His rifle barked twice. The first fell, was right behind him, firing 3 rounds into the second enemy. Swept right and dropped the third. Took the fourth with a single shot to the head. The fifth tried to reach for his weapon but put 2 more rounds in his chest before his hand could touch it. 5 enemies dead in less than 4 seconds. No human casualties. The squad moved on. In the command center of the coalition forces, Commander watched the battle reports with growing anger. His forces were retreating. His powerful weapons were useless. The hostages were still trapped. Then one of his officers noticed something strange on the sensor display. "Commander, there is activity in the south section of the complex." "What kind of activity?" "I am not sure. The sensors are detecting small energy bursts, very brief, very fast, like nothing I have seen before." "The humans," said. He felt anger rise in his chest. "They disobeyed my orders. They went inside. Should we send a team to extract them?" Was about to say yes. Then he noticed something else on the display. Small dots were disappearing from the map. Each dot represented a warrior. "Wait," he said. "Show me the south section." The officer changed the display. In the south tunnels, red dots were vanishing one by one. First 3, then 5, then 7 more. The dots were not moving toward the coalition forces. They were just disappearing. "What is happening?" the officer asked. Did not answer. He stared at the screen with his large insect eyes. Inside the tunnels, the humans continued their advance. Room by room, corridor by corridor, they moved like ghosts through the mining complex. The sensors were designed to detect energy signatures. Plasma weapons created massive heat that was easy to track. Sonic disruptors created vibration patterns that sensors could find. Gravity cannons bent space itself in ways that machines could measure. But the M4 rifle created none of these things. It was just a mechanical device that used expanding gas to push a piece of metal. The sensors did not understand it. They did not register it as a weapon at all. so they did not know they were being hunted until it was too late. Led his squad deeper into the complex. They found a group of 8 guarding a heavy door, counted them through his rifle scope. He held up 8 fingers. Split his squad into 2 teams. He took one team left, took the other team right. They would attack from both sides at once. On his signal, both teams opened fire. The tunnel filled with the crack of rifles. Brass casings bounced on the floor. In 2 seconds, all 8 were down. Check the door. This leads to the central building, he said. The hostages should be inside. Then we go in, said. They breached the door and entered the central processing building. It was a large open space with machines and conveyor belts. At the far end, they could see the hostages. Over 200 aliens and humans were sitting on the floor with their hands tied. Guards stood around them with energy blades ready. A commander stood on a raised platform. He was larger than the others, with bright red scales and golden armor. He was speaking into a communication device, probably giving orders to his warriors. He did not see the humans enter. None of them did. Assigned targets. Each soldier knew who to shoot. He counted down with his fingers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 12 rifles fired together. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The guards fell where they stood. The commander looked up in shock. He reached for his weapon. Fired once. The bullet hit the commander between his yellow eyes. He fell backward and did not move. For a moment, everything was silent. The hostages stared at the human soldiers with wide eyes. They did not understand what had just happened. "We are here to rescue you," said. "Stay calm, stay down, we will get you out." And moved to secure the hostages, and watched the doors. The other soldiers spread out to cover all angles. Pressed his radio button. "Commander, this is Lieutenant. The central building is secure. All hostile forces neutralized. Hostages are safe. Requesting extraction." There was silence on the radio for a long moment, then responded. "How many hostages?" "All of them, sir. 217 civilians." "And the eliminated, sir?" "How many of your soldiers are injured?" Looked around at his squad. They were tired and sweating, but all 12 of them were standing. "None, sir, no casualties." The radio was silent again. Could imagine staring at his display, watching the red dots that were no longer there. "Extraction teams are on the way," finally said. His voice sounded strange. It sounded like he was having trouble believing what he was hearing. "Hold your position." Put down the radio, walked over to him. "How many did we eliminate?" she asked. Thought about the tunnels, the rooms, the guards. 61 confirmed kills, he said, in 47 minutes. Nodded. Not bad for primitive weapons. Around them, the hostages were beginning to stand up. Some of them were crying. Some of them were laughing. A human woman came forward and grabbed his hand. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you. We thought we were going to die." "You are safe now," said. "That is all that matters." Through the windows of the building, they could see Coalition transport ships landing. Alien S. The transport ship carried them back to Coalition Station Vega 12. Inside, the human soldiers sat quietly with their rifles across their laps. They were exhausted. Their uniforms were dirty with dust and sweat, but their eyes were bright with quiet pride. The alien soldiers on the ship looked at them differently now. There were no jokes, no laughter, no clicking mandibles. The alien sat on the other side of the transport and watched the humans with something new in their eyes. It was not friendship, not yet, but it was respect. When the ship landed, Commander was waiting in the docking bay. He stood alone, his tall insect body very still. His large eyes followed as he led his squad down the ramp. "Lieutenant said, 'Come with me, there will be a debriefing.'" "Yes, sir." Followed through the station corridors. They walked in silence. Other aliens stopped to watch them pass. Word had spread quickly about what happened on 7. Everyone knew that the humans had succeeded where the powerful coalition forces had failed. The debriefing room was large and round. A curved table filled most of the space. Sitting at the table were the highest-ranking officers in the coalition. Ambassador Brill was there with her pale blue skin and thin hands. Several commanders sat beside her, generals with gray faces and hard eyes, strategists with large heads and intelligent expressions. Stood at the center of the room. His squad waited outside. "Lieutenant," Brill began, "you disobeyed a direct order from Commander. You entered the combat zone when you were told to fall back. This is a serious violation of coalition military law." "Yes," Ambassador said. "I accept full responsibility for my actions." "Why did you disobey?" Was quiet for a moment, then he spoke clearly. "Because the hostages would have died. The coalition forces could not advance. The enemy had prepared defenses against your weapons. If we had fallen back, over 200 innocent people would have been killed or taken as slaves." He paused. "I could not allow that to happen." "So you decided that your primitive rifles could succeed where our advanced weapons failed." "I decided to try, Ambassador. Our weapons are different. The enemy did not prepare for them. I believed we had a chance." Brill looked at the other officers. They exchanged glances with each other. Then she turned back to, "You killed 61 warriors. You suffered 0 casualties. You completed the mission in less than 1 hour. Is this correct?" "Yes, Ambassador." "How is this possible? Your weapons are so simple. They are just metal and springs and gunpowder. How could they defeat an enemy that stopped plasma rifles and sonic disruptors?" Thought about his answer carefully. "The expected energy weapons," he said. "They built defenses for plasma, sound, and gravity. They covered their walls with reflective plating. They wore armor that absorbed vibrations. They dug positions too deep for cannons to reach." He paused. "But they did not expect bullets." "Bullets," one of the commanders repeated. His voice was filled with disbelief. "Pieces of metal." "Yes, sir. Small pieces of metal moving at high speed. The reflective plating does not stop them. The dampening armor does not slow them. They do not create energy signatures that sensors can detect. They simply hit the target and destroy it." Spoke for the first time since the meeting began. "I watched the recordings from your helmet cameras. Your squad moved through those tunnels like shadows. The enemy never knew you were there until they were already dead." "We trained for this, Commander, every day for weeks. We practiced moving quietly. We practiced shooting accurately. We practiced working together." Looked at directly. "You thought our training was funny. You thought we were playing games with our primitive weapons, but we were preparing. We were getting ready for exactly this kind of situation." The room was silent. The alien officers looked at each other with uncomfortable expressions. They had laughed at the humans. They had called them weak. They had said their weapons were toys. Now they had to face the truth. Brill folded her thin hands on the table. "Lieutenant, I believe I owe you an apology." Shook his head. "No apology is needed, Ambassador. You made judgments based on what you knew. You did not understand our weapons. You did not understand us." "And now," picked up his M4 rifle and placed it on the table. The alien officers looked at it with new eyes. It was scratched and worn. The metal was dull. There were no lights, no power cells, no glowing components. It looked ancient compared to the sleek weapons of the coalition. "This rifle has been used by human soldiers for many decades," said. "It is not the most powerful weapon. It cannot destroy starships or melt armor or shake buildings. But it does one thing very well. It puts a hole in a target from 500 meters away, and it does it every single time." He touched the rifle gently. "There are no countermeasures, no deflectors, no dampening fields, just physics. A bullet does not care about advanced technology. It only cares about hitting the target." Stepped forward. For a long moment he stared at the rifle. Then he looked at, I underestimated your weapons, he said. I was wrong. No, Commander. You did not underestimate the weapons. You underestimated the people who carry them. The room was very quiet. Every alien was listening. Where we come from, continued, war is not about spectacle. It is not about bright lights and loud noises. It is about putting the enemy down and going home alive. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We fought with rocks, then with spears, then with swords and arrows, then with guns and bombs and missiles. We got very good at killing each other. He paused. Now we are here, and we will use everything we learned to fight beside you. Brill stood up slowly. She walked around the table and stopped in front of. Lieutenant, on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I thank you and your squad for your service on 7. You saved 217 lives today. That will not be forgotten. She turned to the other officers. From this day forward, human forces will be fully integrated into coalition combat operations. Their weapons and tactics will be studied and respected. They are not primitive. They are effective. A murmur went through the room. Some officers nodded. Others still looked uncertain, but no one argued. Picked up his rifle and held it at his side. Thank you, Ambassador. We are ready to serve. Outside the debriefing room, Squad was waiting, stood at the front with her arms crossed. The other soldiers stood behind her in a neat line. What happened? Asked. We are no longer in reserve, said. We are now full combat soldiers of the Coalition. A smile spread across face. Behind her and exchanged looks of quiet triumph, nodded slowly. As they walked through the station corridors, something was different. The aliens they passed did not laugh. They did not make jokes. Some of them even nodded in greeting. They reached the mess hall. Inside, hundreds of soldiers were eating and talking. When the humans entered, the noise died down. Everyone turned to look at them. For a moment, thought there might be trouble. Then a soldier stood up. He raised his hand in a salute. Another soldier stood up. Then another. One by one, they rose from their seats. They saluted the human soldiers with their primitive rifles and their worn uniforms. The last to stand was the warrior who had knocked Trey to the floor. He looked at her with his gray face. Then he raised his massive hand and saluted. Met his eyes. She did not smile. She did not speak. She simply nodded and walked past him to the human table. Sat down with his squad. They ate their meal in silence. They did not need to talk. They all knew what had happened. They all knew what it meant. They had come to this place as jokes, as children with sticks and stones, as primitives with useless metal tubes. Now they were soldiers, real soldiers, respected soldiers. Through the windows of the mess hall could see the stars shining in the darkness of space. Somewhere out there were more enemies, more battles, more chances to prove what humans could do. He looked at his rifle resting against the table beside him. Simple, reliable, deadly. The aliens had laughed at it. They had called it primitive and weak. They were not laughing anymore. No one would ever laugh at the M4 again. Were running toward them with medical equipment and supplies. The battle was over. The humans had 1D gravity pulses. They had spent months building defenses against advanced alien technology. They had not prepared for bullets. Finally, after all the waiting and all the training, they were going to war. Outside, the aliens continued to laugh and make jokes about the primitive humans. But inside that small room, 12 soldiers from Earth prepared for war. They did not know when the call would come, but they knew it would come, and when it did, the laughter would stop.